Hey guys, how you doing? Today is a rainy day, so I got to do this video from inside my apartment. I don't even know what to talk about today, so I think I'll just talk about depression. That's a regular theme that pops up on this channel is the subject of depression, something that I have, and I know that lots of people uh, have, and its cousin, good old anxiety. It's definitely a part of our lived experience. And I think the thing that I've been really thinking about in regards to my depression, in regards to what's been going on in the world these days, is how when I was growing up, I was constantly needing to convince people that depression existed, that this was a phenomenon that was real, that it existed in the world, and that it was something that I was experiencing. And even though it was invisible to them, didn't mean that it was invisible to me. Uh, and my whole life, people would say to me, well, can't you just be happy? Like, can't you just buck up? Can't you just pluck up? Can't you just, you know, if you pretend to be happy, then you actually will be happy. Like, that's kind of fucking nonsense garbage that was around me all the time. Uh, and it's really like, it really crystallizes and makes a lot of sense to me why that occurred. Because I came from a society, and I still live in a society, that doesn't want to acknowledge reality. It doesn't want to pay attention to people who are telling them what their lived experiences are on the regular. And that the only reason why depression and anxiety have like punched through and have been taken seriously finally is that the society has gotten so bad and so overwhelmingly disconnected from reality that more and more people are being afflicted with depression and anxiety because they know that we're setting ourselves up for a catastrophic disaster, and we're not doing anything about it. And we know this is the truth. And like my whole generation, like the millennial generation, like we're really aware. Like we know. Like we know what's going to happen. We know what's coming. And we're constantly pushing back against these uh, delusional old men who consistently tell us that our lived experience doesn't exist, who denied the existence of homosexuals in the first place, who denied the existence of systemic racism, who denies the existence of so many things. There are so many things when I was growing up that that the millennial generation had to convince the wider society that these things existed in the first place. And depression is no different. That it's just yet another thing we had to convince old white men existed. Uh, because they genuinely believed that their life on the farm or their small community or in the office was it. That this is the experience of the world, and we can't widen that view at all. If you're one of these people who bump out of these videos, like, share, subscribe, bells, whistles. My Patreon's down below. I'm trying to avoid homelessness, so please consider donating even $1. Gets you into the Discord where we have a good community going on. I live stream 6 to 9 p.m. every weekday. Please think about jumping in, saying hello, and even challenging me. I don't mind that at all. When people come in and challenge my views, respectfully, that actually makes for good conversation. So even if you're looking at this and you're disagreeing with me and you think I'm a kook, come on in. Maybe I'll change your mind. Maybe you'll change mine. I'm fine with that. And it's the denial, it's the delusion. I was saying in yesterday's video, like, it makes it so much harder. Like, it makes it so much harder. It's one thing to experience these things, to experience the depression, to experience the anxiety, to look out into your society and see that we have acted as barbarians and villains for the most part. We've destroyed an awful lot in order to get to where we are, with no sign that we will recant or reform or repent this way of thinking, that we're just going to continue acting this way out into the world. I mean, Canada sells weapons to Saudi Arabia so that they can enact a genocide in Yemen. We sell weapons to Israel so that they can enact a genocide against the Palestinians there, and in all cases, it is so that these forces can steal resources and suppress populations in order to maintain their own power, so that we can continue robbing Middle Eastern countries in order to get resources for ourselves, and then turn around and say that, oh, capitalism's the greatest system, look how much wealth it generates. We don't generate wealth, we steal wealth. That's what capitalists do. And the denial of this is what makes it so much harder. It makes it so much more difficult when everyone around you is believing in this like high delusion that, oh, it's us that's doing it. It's our hard work and innovation that's doing it, while we're literally enslaving populations and literally stealing all of their resources. I mean, for goodness sakes, here in Canada, we won't even acknowledge who the leaders of South American countries are, right? Like, Nicolas Maduro is the elected leader of Venezuela, and we are having meetings with what we call the interim leader, Juan Guaido, right? Like, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. Imagine if after last election, the United States went and started having a bunch of meetings with Andrew Scheer, right? Like, how would we think about that? What would we think about that if the largest nuclear power in the world started to just ignoring our democratic decisions and started having meetings with the opposition leader as if he was the leader of the country, right? What would we think? How would we act? But because we're so delusional and we're so caught up in this course of denial, as we've always done, right? My depression was denied by an entire society. The homosexuality of people was denied by the entire society. Trans people, their existence has been denied completely, right? Systemic racism completely denied by this society. And it's over and it's over and it's over, and it's the same story over and over and over again, that the denial persists until it can no longer persist, and then it fades into the background, and about 20% of the society, 20 to 30% of the society, still lives in this delusional space where perhaps they believe that it exists, but they're more than willing to create all kinds of excuses and rationale for why it's appropriate for them to continue denigrating people who are suffering from mental illnesses, or people who were born with certain sexual proclivities that they don't align with. Why it's appropriate to plan and scheme and belittle and mock these people behind closed doors in bars with your buddies. You know, make sure you put the swastika somewhere on your skin where it can't be seen, right? Just, that's my advice to those guys. Make sure you put it in a place where you can cover it. That's a bad thing to say, but I say it anyway. It is a beautiful kind of a day when it rains like this. It is a beautiful kind of a day. It's like the earth feeding itself. And I do think about that all the time, that all of us are generated of this earth, And we are here on this earth, and we don't understand why, and we don't understand what we're doing here, and we don't understand anything that's around us. And yet, it seems as though the default position of the citizens of Canada is to somehow believe that we've got it all figured out. That when new information comes out or new thoughts enter the public sphere, instead of having the position of, well, the earth is large and complicated and we don't know everything about it, and it's unlikely that we will know anything about it or everything about it. So why don't we have an open mind towards these things? No, instead of that, we'll do the opposite, and we'll deny and we'll deny and we'll deny. And the worst denial of all is the climate change denial. The denial of climate change is one, because with all of the other denials, there does come a point where the evidence is so overwhelming and the evidence is so damning that to maintain the denial is to no longer be intellectually credible, right? Like, if you're still denying that systemic racism exists in Canada while we are exhuming 750 children from a mass grave in Saskatchewan, which is only like the second or third or like fifth of these graves that we found, and we are going to be finding many, 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 many more. If you are still denying the existence of systemic racism, you are no longer intellectually credible, period. You should not be listened to. The institutions that publish you have lost their credibility. You should not be permitted to spread your bile into the society, because the evidence is overwhelming. And the evidence of homosexuality is overwhelming. It can no longer be denied. The evidence of depression and anxiety is overwhelming. You have a whole generation that's screaming at you about it. It cannot be denied any longer. But climate change, once the evidence becomes overwhelming, it will be too late. That's the rub with these delusional old men. That once the evidence becomes overwhelming, once it becomes so much that we can't deny it any longer, well, that will include things like mass famines, food shortages. That will include things like the enormous heat wave that's about to hit the West Coast, the out-of-control forest fires, the droughts, not to mention the rising sea levels, right? All of these things are going to have already begun happening. We can see them, and these delusional old white men get to publish articles saying that no, it doesn't exist, just as they always have, just like they did with our depression, just like they did with our homosexuality, just like they did with systemic racism issues, until it was so overwhelming that they could no longer do it. But in the case of climate change, that means that we get wiped out. We can't wait for that in this case. We have to ignore these guys. We have to put them in the dustbin of history before the evidence puts us all in the dustbin of history. Well, that's the end of this video. A happy one as always. If you're struggling with depression the way that I struggle with depression, I know that you're doing well. I know that you're doing well. You're dealing with it. I know it was, if you manage to even get out of your bed, you've done it. You've done it. Especially considering the circumstances that we live under. This capitalist system is designed to destroy us. It grinds us into the earth, and that's what it's going to continue doing. We have to do our best. We have to keep pushing back. We have to keep pushing to the left. Please like, please share, please subscribe. If you've got $1 jangling around in your pocket, think about becoming a Patreon. We have to push back. We have to. We don't have a choice. The other choice is death. It truly is. Well, just remember, you are a divine being standing on divine energy. We could use some of it right now. Good luck. We're going to need it.